Televidentes e internautas, un alto honor estar aquí con ustedes en una nueva versión de Tal y Como Es. Y rápidamente le pasamos a la inteligente y dinámica Arelis Mejía. Arelis.
Miguel, un placer como siempre estar aquí contigo, especialmente porque hoy tenemos con nosotros el próximo contralor de la ciudad de Manhattan. En más nada, Miguel, vamos a darle la bienvenida al candidato para contralor por el Partido Republicano, Peter Kefalas. Hi, Peter. We wanted to hear more about your campaign. We know and we are trying to explain to our audience that 5 boroughs of New York City have a controller as well as one for New York State. So correct. In this case, you are running for New York City, the 5 boroughs.
New York City controller.
Correct, the 5 boroughs.
Perfect. So we want to have an idea of what is it or what are the responsibilities of a controller so our audience can understand what is it that you're running for.
Absolutely, and thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it. So the controller is one of 3 citywide offices. There's mayor, public advocate, and controller. So if something should happen to the mayor, the public advocate would be next in line. And if something would happen to him or her, then the controller would be the third in line to be the mayor if someone was to die or resign or something like that. But the primary responsibility of the controller in New York City, there's quite a few, but one of them is handling the investments for those city workers that have pensions, the police, the fire department, the teachers, the garbage men, so on and so on, and investing that money and making sure that the city is getting a good return on the investment since they have to grow that money to pay retirees that have been promised a pension. Another thing would be to work with the mayor. Our next mayor is going to be Curtis Leewell, so I'd have to work with him to make sure that we have enough money to hire new police officers, to take care of our kids in school, the fire department, the parks, so on and so forth. But in a nutshell, the New York City controller is basically a fiscal watchdog that is supposed to be the person watching out, looking out for the taxpayers' best interest, where all the money is, being spent and invested from those folks who paid into the system here in New York.
Peter, before say hi, I'm very happy to to have you here in the Tal y Como Es. And I would like to ask you, what made you run for this position as controller of New York City?
Well, I got tired, like a lot of us, friends, relatives, coworkers, family, where I just got tired of being sick and tired every day. And I said, I could sit here and complain and watch the news and, see how the city's falling off a cliff, or I could get involved. And I just decided to do something where I thought my past experience in, creating jobs, starting, managing, running companies, not just here domestically, but on a multinational level, would come into hand. And when you see, where we're spending the money, on who we're spending the money, there's a lot of corruption, there's a lot of incompetence, a lot of monkey business, so to speak, with the taxpayers' money. And I just got tired of watching the same people, the same team, if you will, put us in a bad situation, and I decided to just throw my hat in the ring and try to do something about it personally on behalf of everybody here in New York City.
Sí, Miguel, pienso que es importante por lo menos nosotros traducir cuáles son las responsabilidades de un controlador para de esa manera nuestra audiencia entienda. Básicamente, basado en lo que nos acaba de explicar el candidato, en cuanto a la posición es importante porque, por ejemplo, si nosotros tenemos un alcalde, si algo le pasa al alcalde, entonces...
Que Dios lo libre.
Que Dios lo libre. Entonces, el defensor del pueblo en sí toma esa posición. Si algo le pasa al defensor del pueblo, entonces el contralor de la ciudad, de los 5 condados, que ahorita dije por condado, no, en este caso, la posición que está corriendo incluye los 5 condados. De la ciudad de Nueva York, básicamente es el tercero en línea. O sea que es una posición muy, pero muy importante. Pero aparte de eso, es esa persona que en sí está checando, está auditoreando cada una de las inversiones que se hacen, especialmente en los fondos de pensiones de aquellos, vamos a decir, profesores, policías y cada una de esas personas. Evalúa el presupuesto de la ciudad para asegurarse de que no haya gastos que no deberían de estar ahí. Y en cuanto a cada uno de todos los ingresos que tiene la ciudad, esta es la persona que es responsable de asegurarse de que la ciudad, en cuanto a la parte monetaria, financiera, esté corriendo correctamente y no se esté abusando.
Que no haya corrupción.
Que no haya corrupción en los fondos que nosotros hemos colectado, ya sean de los impuestos de la ciudad y cada una de esas cosas. Sabemos que el presupuesto de la ciudad de Nueva York es grandísimo. Entonces, esta posición es muy importante. Él acaba también de decir la razón por la cual decide entrar en esta contienda es porque básicamente se ha cansado de ver de cómo nosotros, con un presupuesto tan alto, con tantos impuestos que nos sacan a nosotros de los bolsillos, y aún así vemos que la ciudad siempre está en déficit. Entonces necesitamos hacer cambio y esa es la razón por la cual él ha decidido correr para esta posición, Miguel.
Así es. También es importante destacar que él vive pendiente a las auditorías, cuestión de que ningún fondo pueda salirse de control usándolo indebidamente.
Mr. Kefalas, when we look at the current financial state of New York City, where do you see that we need to do major changes to ensure that we are headed in the right direction come the next 4 years, let's just say?
Well, listen, there's a lot, but I think the first thing is we've got to make sure that we stop all of the senior police officers from leaving, and we'll be able to hire younger ones and recruit them, because if we don't have public safety in this city, Bronx, Brooklyn, Manhattan, Staten Island, Queens, there's nobody who's going to stay here with their businesses. There's nobody who's going to want to move here or stay here with a family or retired, no matter where you live or what community. So I think the first thing is to free up the money. We know it's there because if we just look what we've been spending money on in the last 12 years in particular through Comrade Bill and now Dictator Adams, as I like to call him, we're spending money on the wrong people who shouldn't be here. We're not taking care of our homeless, our veterans, our kids in school, our infrastructure. New York's become a very dangerous place where our women and our children and even us men, we're not safe to take the subway. We're not safe to walk in our own community. So public safety would be first. And when you see the amount of money that's squandered, whether it's incompetence or corruption, that hurts all of us in New York. So I made 2 promises. The first promise I made was the first audit I do, because the comptroller's office is supposed to audit everything. The numbers don't lie. And the first audit I'm going to do is going to be former Mayor de Blasio and our former First Lady, Charlene McRae. There was a program called Mental Thrive New York. We wasted over $1 billion to help the mentally ill people on the streets. And it just seems like they're never leaving the streets and more of them are accumulating. So I want to know where that money is. Last I checked, I think they still couldn't find $800 or $900 million, which is a big problem to me. And secondly, the second agency, and I'm going to audit all of them, but the second city agency I audit is going to be NYCHA, which is basically the projects where we have the government housing. And I've been in those buildings. There's a gentleman running in the Bronx, Tariq. We went to his apartment. My media channel, QNS Voice, covered it. Asbestos in his bedroom. His little girl can't occupy. Garbage everywhere, syringes, drugs, vagrants outside, broken elevators, doors that don't open, doors that don't lock. And nobody should be living like that as an American. And no American New York City taxpayer should be forced to pay for that kind of service. So there's a lot of bad things that have been going on, but that's the problem, guys, when you have a one-party rule that rules the city and you don't have any checks and balances. And people have spoke about it, including the current comptroller. It smells bad, it looks bad, but they don't do anything. So I plan on actually taking action. And, when you get caught stealing, you get punished. If that's prison or you get fired, so be it. That's for the courts to decide. But my job is to audit, show everybody the numbers. The numbers don't lie. And I'm going to find out, and I promise all the citizens here, I'm going to find out where every penny went and hold those people accountable who either wasted it or stole that money from us, the citizens.
Peter, in your opinion, what is the fiscal uncertainties of the city of New York currently, at this point?
I mean, it's a great question. I mean, look, we all know relatives, coworkers, friends, neighbors who've left the 5 boroughs, and we know more businesses that have left, and the storefronts empty, in most neighborhoods, big malls. In my neighborhood, one of the malls is completely empty. So I think the big problem is when you have these people who are taking their money with them, whether it's a retiree or a family or a couple or whatever it is, then you have these small businesses or these big businesses, medium-sized businesses, and they're all going to Texas, North, South Carolina, Florida, Georgia. That money goes with those people, and we don't have those people paying. So if we keep making things so unaffordable for the working class and even the middle class, they're going to continue to leave, and so will the businesses. Who we've seen countless of the Wall Street investment firms went to Florida. There's another one that's starting to leave soon. And we've got to stop the bleeding, because if we don't have the revenue here, what will the city become? Another Detroit? And that's what I'm afraid of. And I think that's the number one problem. And then it would be the corruption and the incompetence that would follow as number two, in my opinion.
Yes, so let's just do a little translation for our audience, just so they can understand all these very, very important issues that you're looking at and that you believe are important for the city of New York. So básicamente lo que el candidato está hablando es una cosa muy, pero muy importante, debido a que está hablando de que una de las primeras cosas que él empieza a hacer tiene que ver hacerle una auditoría, auditar a cada una de esas agencias, porque es parte de su trabajo, las agencias de la ciudad. Y específicamente él entiende que en la administración anterior, especialmente la de Blasio, hubo una cantidad más o menos como de $1 billón que se destinaron para un programa para personas de problemas de salud mental. Sin embargo, cuando se ven los números, no vemos exactamente dónde se han ido esos fondos. Pero antes que eso, la seguridad de la ciudad, o sea, la seguridad pública. ¿Qué está pasando? La mayoría de nuestros policías se están yendo, se están retirando, y esos no están siendo reemplazados por otros policías, porque básicamente cuando se evalúa el presupuesto de la ciudad, se dice, bueno, no tenemos suficiente fondo, vamos a tener que quitarlo de la policía. Pero sin seguridad no hay nada, no hay ciudad. Y por eso él entiende que nosotros debemos de buscar esos fondos que sabemos que están ahí, pero que se han mal usado y que también están envueltos en mucha corrupción, para nosotros entonces destinar esos fondos a la seguridad pública, donde debería de estar. También el programa de NYCHA, que muchos de los residentes que tenemos, Miguel, viven en esos proyectos de NYCHA. NYCHA es otra agencia de la ciudad o de New York Housing, la cual no está manejando los fondos correctamente. También sabemos que hay un listado, creo que como de 6,000 apartamentos o más de eso, que están vacíos y ellos no lo están en sí. Tenemos un problema de apartamentos, o sea, de la renta aquí en la ciudad de Nueva York, y esos apartamentos están vacíos. Muchos de ellos están vuelto un desastre porque no los están reparando, no están haciendo ninguna de las cosas que se tienen que hacer. Y debido a eso, él entiende que tenemos que lidiar con ese problema de NYCHA y también con el problema de la seguridad aquí en la ciudad de Nueva York. Aparte de eso, como Miguel, tú le habías dicho cuáles son los problemas fiscales que tenemos exactamente, y él estuvo hablando que tenemos un problema grave. Muchas de las personas, aquellos que en verdad están generando ingresos en la ciudad, se están yendo para Texas, se están yendo para otros estados, porque la ciudad de Nueva York lo está haciendo casi imposible que muchos de esos pequeños negocios que tenemos se mantengan aquí, que aquellas corporaciones que le están dando empleos a muchísimos de nuestras personas, la mayoría que viven aquí, ya sea en el área bancaria, ya sea en un área de restaurante, todo ese tipo de cosas, esas personas están que ya no pueden dar abasto por la cantidad de impuestos sobre la renta que tienen, impuestos de propiedad, los impuestos corporativos, una cantidad inmensa de impuestos que cuando nosotros lo evaluamos decimos, pero ¿para qué nos sacan todo este dinero cuando la ciudad siempre está de mal en peor? Entonces, esas son una de las cosas. Debemos de parar el sangrado que tenemos de los fondos que no se están yendo a ningún sitio, Miguel.
Y el señor Kefalas se presenta aquí en este momento ante la comunidad latinoamericana. Yo quiero que ustedes presten atención a cada una de las cosas que él señala, porque precisamente por eso está aquí hoy en Tal y Como Es, para que ustedes vean que Kefalas, en este caso Peter Kefalas, es el hombre ideal y adecuado para controlar o para llevar a cabo la dinámica de administrar los fondos de esta ciudad.
We know that you're running against another candidate, Mark Levine. Mark Levine was also a council member for many years, I guess 3 terms, I guess. He was one of those that were grandfather during that time where it was changed. We want to understand what differs, like your campaign or the policies that you understand are important to us versus what is it that they're trying to do. Most of our audience sometimes does not have the chance to really see that we have a better options than the one that we had before, and that's the reason why they go to the polls. All they do is just vote for whomever they kind of have heard or know about, and that's the reason why we wanted to be here with us
Yeah,
today.
but before Peter answers the question, well, they are thinking to do what they've been doing a long time ago. Nothing. Go ahead, Peter.
But Miguel, you said that perfect. They want to continue the status quo. So, listen, Mr. Levine is a career politician, in my opinion. And when the city has been, I'll be charitable and say the last 12 years at least, has been running off a cliff and horribly run, probably the worst I've seen in my life, he is largely responsible. He is in charge of Manhattan, the borough of Manhattan, who, for those of us who don't live in New York, this is what you see on TV, the movies, and all the, beautiful dressed women and men, and everything's beautiful, and, all the movies. But Manhattan is not just the economic hub for this country or the tourist hub for visitors either throughout the country or from other, countries, international. But he's allowed Manhattan to become a cesspool. It's like a third world country. You're not safe on the subway, in the train. There are drunks and crackheads and junkies all over the place. He's allowed homeless shelters to go unchecked, to destroy the money. He's allowed Mayor Adams, and he's been complicit because he hasn't spoke up about it, but he's allowed Mayor Adams to spend an expeditious amount of money, more than somebody who would pay visiting a hotel, and they sign these long-term contracts, and they've destroyed the island of Manhattan. So if you go from downtown, or if you go all the way up to Inwood and Washington Heights, the crime, the people in the street, the vagrants, it's disgusting, it's filthy. He's basically been in charge of that borough for 4 years now, and he's let that borough get worse and worse in the last 4 years, in my opinion. I don't think too many people who visit, work, or live in Manhattan would argue. And what I'm planning on doing is the exact opposite. We're going to fund the police. He's already stated he wants to defund all uniform services. The police are a uniform service. We're going to make sure that we can hopefully stop congestion pricing. I don't want to close Rikers Island, the main jail, and create, 4 other jails minus, I think, Staten Island. All the other boroughs are getting a jail. The one in Queens could be 40 stories, could be 20 stories. We don't know. And they're setting it up to almost coddle the criminals, where they're going to make it like a college dorm and give them MacBooks and give them beautiful sofas. That's not what we should be doing. We should be focusing on keeping families, retirees, working people here, and we want to keep the businesses here. I don't know if you guys heard, but John Katz, who owns all the supermarkets in Manhattan, said if Zohan is to win, he's taking his businesses and going somewhere else, because how's he going to compete with a government supermarket? So we want to say no to socialism, no to communism, no to Marxism. And to those out there who have come from nations of socialism or communism, they know damn well that that doesn't work. And when these failed politicians like Mr. Levine and the rest of them can say, oh, but it's going to be a different socialism, not like the one in Venezuela or Cuba, this one's going to work. We know that's a bunch of trash. And we have to basically remind people that it doesn't work. And we have to remind people that this is a society of capitalism and democracy, when we don't have room for socialists or communists here. And we have to also stop the young people from wanting free, free, free. Nothing in life is free. Somebody has to pay for that at the end of the day. You don't go to a restaurant and say it's free and walk out. Somebody's going to get the check. So we have to teach the young people here that, especially those like me who are born here, who haven't traveled around the world. I've been very fortunate to live abroad, travel abroad. But for those of us here who haven't seen real poverty, suffering, violence, misery, they have to realize that they're living in the greatest country, what used to be the greatest city in the world. And we have to resist and refuse socialism. And we have to get back to basic intelligence, which is where I believe the Republican Party is, and the Conservative Party, where we can stop the city from falling off a cliff. I don't want to see this city become the next Detroit or worse.
Peter, what about the growing budget gaps we've been having here in the city in the last 8 years? What are we going to do about this?
That's a great question, Miguel. Look, we always hear we don't have the money, and then we've heard this over Mayor Adams' term so far. We don't have the money, and then all of a sudden they find it somewhere, right? We've seen that more than one time. So my opinion is this: if we have all this money to be wasted for stupidity, incompetence, whatever you want to say, corruption, and we're going to invite people who shouldn't be in this country and subsidize them, subsidize their education, their kids' education, healthcare. We're going to give them debit cards, put them up in 5-star hotels like the Roosevelt. Then we damn well know we have the money. We're just spending it on the wrong people and the wrong things. And there's no reason any community in this city, I don't care who you are, I don't care what borough you live in, there's no reason our women and our kids cannot go out in the subway or the street or to a park and not be dealing with a pervert exposing themselves, or someone with a knife, or shooting our young people. They're shooting each other. It's just crazy. We had enough of our own criminals here. And sadly, you just have to look outside the window and watch TV or take the train. We've been subsidizing international crime syndicates to come here and create more crime. So my answer to you, Miguel, would be like, we have the money. We have to stop wasting it and spending it on the wrong things and investing it into the people who are born here or who've immigrated here legally and doing the right thing, the hardworking American people here in New York City. We've got to make it a city that works for everybody, that it's a clean neighborhood you live in, it's safe, you have enough police, they pick up your garbage, your fire department staff, your kids in the schools have what they need, especially our special needs kids. And that would be my answer. We're going to audit everybody. The numbers don't lie. And I believe, Miguel, the numbers that we've been being told by our elected officials now, the Democratic Party, and let's be honest, they rule the city with an iron fist, and they have for a long time since, Giuliani. I believe they're lying to us, and we are going to find that whatever they're telling us, it is going to be a much larger number, and people are just going to be shocked when they see the amount of money that's really been spent.
Excellent.
Miguel, yo creo que debemos de traducir un poco de todo lo que Peter ha dicho aquí, porque pienso que son cosas muy vitales para nosotros tomar una decisión consciente de qué es lo que vamos a hacer, venga el día de las elecciones. Básicamente nosotros le preguntamos cuál es la diferencia de él con los demás candidatos que están corriendo para esta misma posición, específicamente por el Partido Demócrata, y él lo acaba de decir que cuando evaluamos al otro candidato, en este caso Mark Levine, podemos ver que él no es la solución para el problema que tenemos, debido a que él ha sido una de las razones por la cual la calidad de vida en el condado, porque él es actualmente el presidente del condado de Manhattan, la calidad de vida del condado de Manhattan ha disminuido exponencialmente, donde muchas personas hasta tienen miedo de coger el tren, Miguel. Eso no es, yo lo oigo diariamente, especialmente tú que trabajas ahí, te das cuenta como muchas personas cuando se te acercan, te hablan acerca de esa situación. No debemos de nosotros sentirnos que ni siquiera podemos caminar. La ciudad de Nueva York, especialmente Manhattan, no es solamente una ciudad para nosotros, o sea, estamos hablando del turismo de esta ciudad, que es algo que debemos de nosotros asegurarnos de que siga creciendo, porque es parte de lo que hace Nueva York, y también que trae los ingresos a esta ciudad. También Miguel le ha hecho una pregunta específicamente acerca de la brecha presupuestaria, pero parece ser como que es un relajo. Muchas veces vemos que el alcalde nos dice a nosotros, bueno, no tenemos fondos para tal y tal cosa, tenemos que hacer recortes y demás, y luego él se aparece como si fuera este superhéroe. No, en verdad no vamos a hacer ningunos cortes, tenemos más dinero. Bueno, lo que él entiende, Peter Kefalas entiende, es que nosotros sí tenemos el dinero. El problema es que no lo estamos utilizando en las cosas que en verdad son importantes para las personas que vivimos aquí en la ciudad de Nueva York, que nos levantamos diariamente y que pagamos impuestos. Nosotros necesitamos una persona que en verdad haga la auditoría correcta, cuestión de que cuando veamos el presupuesto no estemos gastando cosas que no necesitamos. Como nos podemos ver con esta cantidad de inmigrantes, de inmigración descontrolada que recibimos en la ciudad de Nueva York, bueno, para todo eso apareció dinero. Apareció dinero para rentar hoteles, apareció dinero para darle tabletas, apareció dinero para buscarle. Entonces, la cuestión no es que el dinero no está.
Seguro de salud.
Seguro de salud. Cada una de esas personas llegaban aquí, tenían Medicaid y tenían todo ese tipo de cosas. Ahora, esas son las cosas que nosotros debemos de ver. ¿Dónde es que se está gastando el dinero? Porque ahí es que está el problema en la ciudad. no que la ciudad no tiene dinero, y nosotros mismos lo sabemos. ¿Por qué? Porque la cantidad de impuestos que nos hagan a nosotros son altísimas. Y con eso le quiero hacer esta pregunta a Mr. Kefala. We see that we have candidates that are running on the Democratic Party stating that he is going to increase the taxes, corporate taxes, on those people that earn X amount of money. And we see that little by little, every single little penny that we make, we barely get to take it home. We want to know exactly what is it that is going to do. And I know, for example, Curtis Lee is the only candidate that's saying that he is looking to basically decrease the corporate taxes and individual taxes as well. We are bleeding when it comes to taxes here in the city, and we don't see that our money is being used properly. In your case, what do you think that we should be looking forward once you are our comptroller here in New York City?
Well, listen, that's a great point. You hit it right on the head. I agree with my running mate, Curtis, who's going to be our future mayor. If you don't decrease the amount of corporate taxes, companies are not going to come here to be an incubator, so to speak, and start small and grow. Then we're not going to get the next Apple or the next Amazon. And speaking of Amazon, we had a socialist AOC and Generis over in Queens, and they chased out just a couple of years ago Amazon, when it came to the Astoria, Long Island City area in Queens. 55,000 jobs, good paying jobs. It would have stimulated that economy. It would have stimulated all 5 boroughs because people have to, go back and forth, shop, eat, go back and home, forth to work and home. And they killed it because they're anti-capitalists. And what's sitting over there now? It could be producing a lot of revenue and stuff like that. So we have to be business friendly. If you scare away business, small, medium, and large, you're only hurting us. If you raise the taxes on, like you said, we're working, and we're not seeing many of our pennies, and that's the fact. They're raising the subway soon, the MTA. I know it's only 10 cents, but only 10 cents when everything costs so much. It adds up to everybody. So we've got to make it where people can afford to live here, not just get by, not just survive. That's not what New York's all about. That's not what it should be, living here, whether you're retired, single, or have a family or a business. And if we don't make New York more affordable, you guys already know, and we see it every day. The retirees, the families, the single people, the small, medium, and large businesses, they're going to say bye-bye, and they're going to go to Florida, the Carolinas, and Texas, take their money with them. And if you don't have enough people paying the taxes here, what's going to happen? So we don't want to chase people out. No matter what economic bracket they're at, we want to keep people here, especially people who are paying the large taxes or the corporations. And if we do that, we're just going to commit suicide financially, and it'll just be another Detroit. And remember, guys, at one point, Detroit had more millionaires than any other city in the United States. Mm-hmm. We've seen what happened to them in recent time. They were the hub for auto manufacturing and a lot of industry. And we've seen they haven't yet bounced back. I don't want to see New York go further down the toilet and become the next Detroit or worse. And it'll probably magnify 10 times worse because we're 10 times bigger. We are the biggest principal city in America. We can't afford to have that happen, folks.
Peter, let me translate a little bit of what you just have said. Señores, lo que estamos viendo ahora, que ya estamos alarmados, es razón para entender que nos vamos a alarmar más. Peter señala que todo va hacia arriba, incluyendo el aumento de los trenes, que ya de hecho está alto, y aunque señala que apenas son 10 centavos, sí, pero cuando la cosa está alta, 10 centavos son muchos. En este caso son mucho. Entonces, todo va hacia arriba. Ya sabemos la inflación al nivel que va. Y si esta gente sigue administrando las administraciones de la ciudad, vamos a estar peores. Y aquí tenemos a Peter Kefalas, quien es el auténtico candidato, señores, que tiene la idea y además la decisión y la moralidad para hacer las cosas correctamente, porque los demócratas lo que han hecho es que no han hundido la ciudad. Peter, thank you so much. We really appreciate the fact that you've been here with us, telling us about all these important issues that are affecting all the people that live here in New York City.
Yeah, listen, guys, thank you for having me. And the first group that actually endorsed me when I won my primary decisively was friend Sammy and Naomi and the rest of the leadership at the Dominican American Republican Club up in northern Manhattan, the South Bronx. So a lot of the Dominicans are getting involved. I need more of them to get involved. And the party for everybody, including our Latino brothers and sisters here in New York City, including mi gente, the Dominicans, is the Republican Party. Don't believe the brainwashing that because you're a certain person or you're from a certain place or a certain group, that you have to blindly vote for the same failed people who are not helping your community or your people or your future. Give us a chance on the Republican side, and I promise not only the Dominican citizens, but all of the citizens in all 5 boroughs will be much better off. We'll be safer. We'll be more prosperous. And give us a shot. We have nothing that can save us from going off the cliff if we don't take our city back this November. So I just ask everybody out there to look at the options, not just for my seat, but for mayor, for public advocate, city council, district attorney, so on and so on. Make a good choice, folks, because the same team that keeps losing is not going to get us off the field with a victory.
Bueno, ya ustedes saben, Peter Kefalas por el Partido Republicano corriendo para el Comptroller en la ciudad de Nueva York. Ya sabemos, tenemos otra opción. No es necesario solamente ir ahí y votar solamente demócrata. Tenemos diferentes opciones y es bueno que nosotros veamos cuáles son esas opciones para hacer una decisión con conciencia.
Y votar por el bloque republicano.
Republicano, Miguel. Así
Coristiwa, Peter Kefalas, y tenemos también a esta muchacha.
Tenemos Matt Moran, una posición muy importante,
yes.
Es la fiscal de Manhattan, muy importante.
She's going to be Manhattan District Attorney, right?
Yes, that's correct, la fiscal del distrito. Así es que ya ustedes saben.
Votar en esa línea republicana, ¿ok? Para que las cosas salgan mejor.
Y bueno, Miguel, será hasta
la próxima. Thank you so much, Peter.
Thank you, guys.